Black Power, Conrad, Robert. Baby, 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 yeah. What's going on this morning? You doing alright? Said I am it, what's wrong when I did it? I am there. Come on in the room, everybody. Come on in the room. It's time for the Revolutionary Book Club with Chief Dia. Come on, y'all. Black Power, Karina. How you doing, sister? Y'all see I got my New Orleans beats bouncing on this morning. Black Power Arrow, y'all like and share, please. Black Power Gigi. Black Power Naya. That I'd rather be. You in New Orleans? Oh, hell no, Robert. How the hell you in New Orleans and ain't tell me? You know I love New Orleans. What you doing in New Orleans? Huh? You organizing? Yes, thank you for sharing, Naya. Oh, okay. Please hashtag shared when y'all share the video, y'all. Let's get this video out. It's time for some political education on this Sunday morning. Looking for Mr. Right if I wanna listen. Listen, they can make a New Orleans bounce song out of anything, okay? Any favorite song that you probably got, they probably already got a New Orleans bounce version of it, I'm telling you. So we're going to give it till about 11:05. I'm going to let a few more people come into the room. Y'all please like and share. Y'all know Facebook trying to block our reach, so we got to share as much as we can. But I'm so excited this morning, y'all. We read chapters 1 through 3. So, yeah, if you don't have the PDF of the autobiography, please hit up Comrade Robert or Comrade Gigi, and they can get that over to you so you can participate in the discussion as well. Come on, y'all. Let's get some more people in here. Share. Share to your own timeline. Share in groups. Share whatever you can, okay? It's not an accident, it's evidence that maybe we were meant to be. We're going to get started at 11:05, y'all. I'm going to give it a little more time for some more people to come into the room. Y'all doing okay? Comrade Naya, are you still in, you went back to Alabama, didn't you? Right? If I'm not mistaken. I'm trying coffee, y'all. It's actually not that bad. Huntsville, okay. I've never really been a fan of coffee. Gazi put me on, because I used to drink it a lot when I was younger, but I stopped. So whatever, but I'm drinking some now, and I thought it was like instant coffee, but when I looked at the packaging or whatever, it's like the actual coffee that you put into the filter. So it's like I got a few coffee grains in my throat, but it's cool. It's all good. I think it's doing the trick. When you coming back, comrade? Let's see what time it is. Okay, it's 11:04. I'm gonna turn this thing a little bit. Do y'all let me know? Do y'all like the music in the background? Cause I leave it playing a little bit. You know, I think it makes for a more festive time. But anyway, we're gonna go ahead and get started. And again, good morning, my beautiful African people. And welcome to Black Hammer Presents the Revolutionary Book Club with your boy, Chief dia. I hope y'all doing okay today on this beautiful Sunday Sunday morning. I haven't been outside yet, but I'm looking out the window and it already looks hot. It's been hot as hell for like the past couple of days. Like, child, I ain't got time. But anyway, welcome. And as you guys know, today we will be reviewing chapters 1 through 3 of Assata, an autobiography, which is the autobiography of our dear sister Assata Shakur, who is now living in Cuba. I want to send a special shout out to my comrade Gigi, who got this for me. This book, it just looks revolutionary, right? It is so nice, and Assata is beautiful on the cover, isn't she? Y'all like that? But again, I just want to remind you, if you're tuning in for the first time, or if not, please hit up Comrade Robert for the PDF version of the book, so you can follow along with us. And you know, it's free. You don't got to pay for it. But before I go any further, I want to let you all know that the book club does serve as a fundraiser for our organization, Black Hammer. So you can support by going to blackhammer.org. Click the donation tab. You can donate through that, or you can donate through the our Cash App at I don't think you have to put the $, but it's BH Book Club for Cash App. And this morning, we have a goal to raise $25. As you all know, we are really trying to professionalize my little set here. It's this wonderful circle light that has a phone holder, tripod, all of that in one combo. And we want to do that. So this morning, I saw Gigi post the links in here, so you can look in the comments. But again, we got a goal to raise $25 today. I know we can do it. Again, you can go to blackhammer.org, donate through there. You can go through Cash App again, and that's BH Book Club, which stands for Black Hammer Book Club, okay? And I also have another very special announcement this evening at 6 o'clock. Black Hammer presents hashtag Protect Our Girls, an interview with Sister Marcy Thrasher and Brother Anthony Valentine, who is the parents of these two beautiful black girls. As you know, Black Hammer, we're kicking off another campaign again, which is entitled hashtag Protect Our Girls. And this campaign revolves around two beautiful black children. I believe the ages of 7 and 8. Please, Comrade Muhammadu, correct me if I'm wrong. At this moment, they are being subjected to abuse from their stepfather, this man who molested them. And now he has been able to, the two girls, they're now with their biological mom, and the stepdad has been molesting them. And through these backward ass courts, he has been granted unsupervised, I'm gonna say that again, unsupervised visitation with these two beautiful black children. And they have been through therapy, you know, all of these different things that have been set up by the courts, you know, who don't have the interest of black people at heart, never have, never will. You know, and now they have to be around this monster. And so tonight at 6 p.m., going live from the Black Hammer Facebook page, I'm going to be doing an interview with them. They have just been the most courageous, you know, parents that I have ever, well, not that I've ever seen, but, you know, that I've, you know, experienced working with. Sister Marcy is on the committee for the hashtag Protect Our Girls campaign. And, you know, they're raising funds to pay for a lawyer that they found to keep on retainer, because one of the previous lawyers that they had actually stole their retainer. But we're going to go into all of the details tonight. Again, that's 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we're going to go live from the Black Hammer Facebook page. So y'all make sure y'all tune in for that, okay? Can I get some hashtag shares? I know we got 9 people in here, but I want to get some more. So let's try to get up the viewership, because this is very important, y'all. We want to get this political education out to everybody this morning. So please put hashtag shared in the comments when you shared, okay? So while y'all doing that, I'm going to tell y'all how this whole process is going to work. This is how the Revolutionary Book Club works, okay? So how we're going to do it is, of course, we're going to go 3 chapters at a time. You know, as we said last week, and as we're going to do today, we're going to review chapters 1 through 3. And with each chapter, I'll provide, like a brief summary, go through different points that I've, read in the chapter that really stood out to me. And then we have hashtag read that back, okay? That's read that back. And what we do when we hashtag read that back, I'm going to read my favorite part of the chapter and then, discuss that. And then I want you to put in the comments your favorite part of the chapter with hashtag read that back, and you got to spell dat, D-A-T, okay? Not that, read that back. And then we're going to discuss it, okay? So let's go ahead and get into it. Gigi, please, again, make sure that you post those donation links, y'all. We want to raise $25 this morning, so y'all know where to go so we can do this thing, okay? So let's get started. Now, I will say I didn't want to read the forewords, mainly first because one of the forewords for the book is written by Angela Davis, and y'all know we don't feature Angela Davis, okay? At one point in time, she may have been this, this revolutionary force or whatever, but not too long ago, this sister was talking about voting for Hillary Clinton, and y'all know we don't fucks with no Hillary Clinton, okay? And another portion of the foreword was written by Brother Lennox Hines, who was the director of Black Lawyers. Matter of fact, let me tell y'all. He was the director. Hold on, let me find it. He was the director for the National Conference of Black Lawyers, which was an organization that has been called on to defend political activists in the Black community since its founding in 1968. And actually, his portion of the foreword was the most politically sound to me. So, yeah. And, when we hear about, to be honest, when we hear about, Assata Shakur, excuse me, me, myself, before I came into political life, it was always just a question of who is this woman? I'm always hearing people talk about her, and the main thing that I would hear people say is that she escaped to Cuba. She's living in Cuba now. And, just coming into political life is when I began to do my research and find out who this sister was. And I mean, in high school, we would read some of her poetry, but you know how the colonial school system is. They're not going to put you on that, on the stuff that we need to be on. You understand what I'm saying? But what was so interesting to me to find out is that, everybody focuses on, this event, with the state troopers that took place on May 2nd in 1973. But what a lot of people may not be privy to is the fact that prior to Assata Shakur being charged with the murder of the state trooper, that, the government, the United States government had already began, charging her with all of these different various crimes. And she has also been and still is a victim of COINTELPRO, and she was listed in this document. And so what I want to do is read at this moment a portion of the forward that was written by Brother Lennox, because he speaks about, just the, how none of it, this whole situation, like how it all came about, like the different charges and things of that nature, don't even make sense, like chronologically or whatever. Like it just doesn't make sense. So I'm gonna read this portion real quick, and it says, As the chart that follows this essay shows, on May 2nd, 1973, when the shooting on the New Jersey Turnpike occurred, Assata was wanted, quote unquote, wanted for all of these different crimes. The irony is that not one of the charges led to a conviction. When she was apprehended, shot down on the New Jersey Turnpike, leading to her only conviction. Now, listen, the shooting on May 2nd led to her only conviction, but prior to all of this, they had been charging her with all of these different things, and I'm gonna get to that in just a moment. Yeah, so leading to her only conviction, she should have enjoyed the presumption of innocence that the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution is supposed to grant to any of us when accused, but we understand that that's not how it works. So just to let you guys know that who Assata was with on the night of May 2nd, 1973, she was with her comrades, and I'm probably going to butcher this. Y'all know I'm country as hell, so leave me alone. So we have Sundiata Akoli and Zayed Malik Shakur was traveling with her. And you know, it was just it was a whole mess. So just so we can review the events of that night, I'm going to read a little further so, you know, we have an understanding of the basis of where we're working from. So on May 2nd, 1973, Assata, Sundiata Akoli, and Zayed Malik Shakur were traveling south on the New Jersey Turnpike in a white Pontiac. They were stopped by New Jersey State Trooper James Harper for reasons consistent with the FBI COINTELPRO guidelines, which directed that activists be arrested for minor traffic violations. So that means if you have been identified as somebody who was working with the Black Liberation movement, if they stopped you for a traffic violation, even a minor traffic violation, that was grounds for them to arrest you. So what they were trying to do at that moment was arrest Assata and her comrades based on a minor traffic violation, or whatever you want to call it. So they said how they were able to, you know, how the pigs were able to sum it up was that they were trying to stop them for some faulty tail light or something of that nature. So Harper's testimony, however, leaves open the suggestion that the Pontiac was simply a target. Harper testified that when he first saw the Pontiac, he was 2 miles north of the Turnpike Administration Building, headquarters for the trooper. He followed the car for 2 miles until it was close to the administration building before he pulled it over because, and I quote, the lighting, not the tail light, but just the lighting in general, was better and there was more security. The Pontiac was traveling at a normal speed in the center lane. Harper first passed it in the left lane, observed the driver, and quote-unquote made a mental note of his description. He then moved to the right lane and let the Pontiac pass him, at which time he made a mental note of the sex and race of the passengers. When he approached the Pontiac in the left lane, he motioned Sundiata to pull over and call the administration building for assistance. When Trooper Robert Palanchar was directed to assist Harper, he commented on the radio, and I quote, "Meet you at the pass, partner," and sped to the administration building at 120 miles per hour. Trooper Werner Foster was also went to assist in this stop, for which Harper testified only a summons would have been issued. Okay, so that's pretty much, you know, how they were able to charge Sister Assata. And as I said earlier, like, this was the only conviction that she got, you know, in terms of everything that they were trying to charge her for. And what I want to do now is go to this timeline that has been created in the book, and I'm not sure. Well, I'm sure it's listed in the free PDF file. But just real quickly, I want to go over the different charges that they were trying to charge Sister Assata with. So on April 5th, 1971, she was charged with armed robbery at Hilton Hotel, New York City. That those charges were dismissed. On August 23rd, 1971, she was charged with bank robbery, but she got an acquittal. September 1st, 1972, she was charged with bank robbery again, but that was with a hung jury in acquittal. Then on December 28th, 1972, kidnap of a drug dealer, acquittal. January 2nd, 1973, murder of drug dealer, dismissed. January 23rd, 1973, attempted murder of policeman, ambush, dismissed. May 2nd, 1973, murder of state troopers, New Jersey Turnpike, change of venue. And hold on, I want to backtrack just a second, because white power has never ever been able to change the structure of how they go after, black revolutionaries. And, as we've seen what they did with Huey P. Newton, what they did with Fred Hampton, what they did with Bobby Hutton, is, they violate, these leaders, these pillars within our community. And then after this violation, they assassinate the character of these revolutionaries who fought for black people. And, in turn, you already have these white nationalists who are only more emboldened by the different stuff that is put out by the media in turn, which is controlled by the U.S. government, which is controlled by the FBI, which is controlled by the CIA. And, what we're seeing with this is the same with Sister Assata, is the same thing that we've seen done with so many different revolutionaries within our time. And not even to say that they only do it with just revolutionaries. We see them do it with regular African people, working class, black, poor, African, indigenous people all the time. We're talking about, a situation when I was in St. Petersburg, and I want to give a shout out to Sister Kunde, whose daughter Dominique was murdered by the Pinellas County police officers. They murdered this beautiful black child, and then went on this, and her two of her friends, Ashanti and Lanaya, 16, Dominique was 16, Lanaya and Ashanti were only 15. And after they were murdered by the pigs, they just went on this whole smear campaign, putting mugshots of these beautiful girls in the newspaper and just dragging all of this stuff, all of this just trash about them in the media. First to desensitize, the African community, the black community, to be like, make you feel some type of way like, damn, they was doing all of that shit. Maybe that's what they deserved. And again, emboldening, these white nationalists saying, yeah, that's exactly what these niggas deserve, okay? And we see that this is what they tried to do with Comrade Assata. And I just want to find this portion real quick. When they, because like I said, prior to her being convicted, tried and convicted with the murder of the state troopers on the New Jersey Turnpike, they had put up all of these trumped up charges. And they, where's the portion at? Let's see. This is also good to read with a highlighter, y'all. And I'm so critical that I don't have one, because I should have had one. Alrighty, so I'm going to stop right here. It says, it's important to remember that Assata Shakur's decision to join the Black Panther Party occurred soon after J. Edgar Hoover ordered the 41 FBI officers to intensify their efforts to expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, and otherwise neutralize black nationalist organizations and their leaders. So that had already put a target on Sister Assata Shakur's back. Assata could no longer go home. She was on the FBI's most wanted list, accused of being armed, of being a bank robber, and subsequently of being a kidnapper and a murderer. A photograph, alleged to be Assata Shakur, taken at the scene of a bank robbery in August 1971, appeared in a full-page advertisement in the New York Daily News on July 10th, 1972. It was a duplicate of a poster placed in every bank in city, I mean, in, excuse me, it was placed in every bank in the city and state of New York, and post offices and subway stations, y'all. The advertisement announcing wanted for bank robbery $10,000 reward was printed above 4 photographs. One of them, the picture of a woman allegedly taken during the 1971 bank robbery. Beneath the picture, in bold capital letters, was the name Joanne Deborah Chesimard, which is Assata Shakur's slave name. During her trial for this bank robbery, which ended in acquittal, a jury found that it was not a picture of Assata. The photograph had been released by the FBI in the U.S. Attorney's Office to New York Clearinghouse Association, a banks association, which placed the ad in the posters. Even after Assata had been acquitted of this bank robbery in January 1976, another advertisement offering the same reward for an unapprehended bank robbers appeared in the Daily News in March 1976. Now check this out. This time, however, the photograph was a recognizable mugshot of Assata with the word apprehended across her face. This poster appeared 2 months after her acquittal on the August 1971 charge, 2 years after her acquittal on September 1972 bank robbery charge, and while no bank robbery charges were outstanding against her. So there it is. We already know what the U.S. government was trying to do. And I'm going to continue to say the U.S. government because, you know, we've been fed this narrative that the media is its own freestanding thing, is uninfluenced by, you know, politics and all of this other type of stuff like that, when that's a goddamn lie. And this is evidence of that. So I just wanted to lay that context before we got into, you know, the chapters and everything else of that nature. So let's take a second to read some of these comments. We have Comrade Daniel, who says, an officer in East Athens ran over a young guy no older than us An officer in East Athens ran over a young guy no older than us in the collective last August. He was awarded $250,000 by the city commissions council a month later, and his case barely went to trial. The victim who was struck by the pig was a lumpen brother on the block, comrades. Yep. We have Comrade Nye, who says, no, they refer to her as a fugitive that needs to be extradited to complete her sentence. They refer to her by her government name. Yes. So now let's get into the chapter. So chapter 1, for me, which stood out the most when reading it, was just the clarity of how Sister Assata was able to just recall the events of what happened on May 2nd. And just reading it brought chills to my body. And I don't know how to describe it, but it was just like, you know, for her to be able to remember and sum up everything that happened to her, you know, like in my mind, I would think that, you know, you probably wouldn't be able to recall, you know, the details of what's happening to you. Like, she was shot and, you know, beaten by the pigs during this event. And just how she writes about it, it was just like, I don't know how to describe it. It was just like, really like, damn, how was she able to recall so many, you know, so much of what happened? And I just want to read like maybe the first few paragraphs of chapter 1, maybe, you know, just to give you an understanding of, you know, like my experience when reading it. And it says, there were lights and sirens. Zed was dead. And I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing his name wrong. My mind knew that Zed was dead. The air was like cold glass. Huge bubbles rose and burst. Each one felt like an explosion in my chest. My mouth tasted like blood and dirt. The car spun around me, and then something like sleep overtook me. In the background, I could hear what sounded like gunfire, but I was fading and dreaming. Suddenly, the door flew open, and I felt myself being dragged out onto the pavement, pushed and punched, a foot upside my head, a kick in the stomach. Pigs were everywhere. One had a gun to my head. Which way did he go? They were shouting. Bitch, you better open your goddamn mouth or I'll blow your goddamn head off. I nodded my head across the highway. I was sure that nobody had gone that way. A few of the cops were off and running. Like, how do you describe, like, the air was like cold glass, and then to have to, internalize at that very moment that one of your comrades is actually dead. I don't know, that was just so like, I don't know. It again, like literally, y'all, when reading it, it made the hair stand up on the back of my neck. It was crazy. So, pretty much through chapter 1, she describes her, her experience of what happened that night on May 2nd. And then also, what happens to her in the hospital. And of course, you already know without a shadow of a doubt, they abused her. She speaks about how, there's different pigs that come in on different shifts and they beat on her, they poke her, they prod her, and, they do all of these different things to her. I mean, she was at one point, when she first got into the hospital, they didn't even know if she was going to live or die. And at the same time, they were trying to fingerprint her. They were asking her all of these different questions, trying to interrogate her and all of these different things. It was even to a point, I think she says in here that one of the doctors, under the leadership of the pigs, was sticking out. She isn't able to identify what the substance was that he had on his fingers, but he was literally poking her in her eyes, making her eyes burn. I want to assume that it may have been mace or something like that. But what was so disgusting and so it was just, I mean, and that's not, what I'm about to read, that's not even the tip of the iceberg of what has been done to African people, under colonialism and imperialism here in America. She speaks about, I'm going to just read it. So the stretcher is moving again. Where are the hell are they taking me? Again, the light is changing, and although my eyes are closed, I can feel the difference. It feels like I'm in the dark. I can't take it any longer, and I look. The room is dark, but there is some light. My eyes slowly adjust. There's something lying next to me. I can see an outline, something in plastic. Something my mind slowly realizes that is a man in a plastic bag, and that man is Zayed. My body stiffens, my mind spins. So they take Assata and place her in a room next to her dead comrade Zayed. Can you just, imagine, it's sick. It's sick. It's sick. But what's so indicative of Assata's resistance to all of this is, just this ordinary, regular statement that she makes, but it's just so profound when she says, the night crawls along. Nurses, doctors, and troopers. I'm still scared, but I am just as angry and evil as I am scared. How powerful is that? I am still scared, but I am just as angry and evil as I am scared. That was so powerful for me, for her to be in this situation where I'm pretty sure at that point she probably felt like she wasn't even going to be able to survive. But she was still fighting. She still had that anger about her. She still had that sense of, resistance. And that was just so powerful to me. So, yeah. And so she speaks about, just the different tactics and abuse, that was used by the pigs to try to break her. And then she speaks about being the charges that, so they have her in this, they had her in a regular hospital bed, in a hospital bedroom or whatever, but the pigs make the decision to move her to this like suite, and only because, they had more security measures. They know that she would be secluded, so they would be able to abuse her in whichever way that they wanted, and not have to worry about anybody coming in, and messing with her. And so how they were able to get, and she still didn't break or whatever, but they were able to get through her through a sister, a black nurse that was trying to get her name and everything like that. And being that Assata thought that, the sister, and it probably wasn't even on behalf of the sister, because I'm telling you, like how she describes how they have the pigs just posted everywhere in the hospital, there was no way that sister was going to get out of there with any information that Assata had given her. So at one point, Assata did give her name and a number to call to let her family know that she was in the hospital, because at this point, nobody knew where Assata was. So once she passed this note along to the sister, of course the pigs got it, and they just turned up on her all over again. So my portion of chapter 1, #read that back, is when Sister Assata goes over the charges that they give her. And I'm not going to even stunt, like I think I had to read this portion at least twice. And I had to read it twice because, white people are so goddamn stupid. And they use all of this unnecessary language. And of course, it's to keep us in a state where we don't really understand what the fuck is going on. And they just put in all of these different unnecessary words. And that's how it was. So they didn't even take her to court to formally charge her. They brought the judge into her hospital room and read the charges to her. And it's a lot. If you were able to read, as you can see, it was a lot of charges. And I can't read through all of them, but I'm going to read some of the language just so you can see how stupid this shit sounds. We are here today to serve complaints upon you for the matters arising on the shooting of May 2nd of 1973. I will read to you the complaints, leave copies with you of the charges that will be pending against you. The judge will then advise you on the arraignment of such rights you may have. You are charged under complaint number 119977 by Detective Toronto, New Jersey State Police, who says on the 2nd of May, 1973, within the confines of the township of East Brunswick, County of Middlesex, that you unlawfully and illegally resisted a lawful arrest, being made by the New Jersey State Trooper James Hopper by discharging a dangerous pistol and wounding the said James Hopper and fleeing the scene of the incident, all in violation of NJS 2A:85-1. What the fuck is all of that? Like, what is all of that? Like, what is that? Let's see, what was another charge that I had to read like twice or so? Okay, this one right here. You are charged with S119982 by State Police Sergeant Louis Toronto that on the 2nd day of May 1973 in the township of East Brunswick, County of Middlesex, you unlawfully and illegally possessed on your person, under your custody and control, an illegal weapon, to wit, one Browning 9mm automatic pistol, one Browning automatic .380 caliber. I don't know how to read guns, y'all, so give me. 1.38 caliber Llama automatic pistol, serial number 24 831, all without having obtained any necessary permit for the carrying of same in violation of NJS 2A:151-41. Nonsense. Not nonsense. I don't, and if you've been able to read, it was just like, what the fuck was that? So another part of chapter 1 that stood out to me was when Sister Assata was finally able to see her family. And what was so touching to me is the interaction that she was able to have with her mom. And she says, and I quote, "I'm proud of you," she says. "The words spin around me, weaving a warm blanket of love. I am so happy I can hardly contain myself. My mother is proud of me. She loves me and is proud of me." And that part of chapter 1 was so touching to me because, you know, when we as Black people make the decision to come into organization, to come into political life, 9 times out of 10, you know, we become isolated from our families, you know, which we can sum up that is, you know, just a consequence of being, you know, colonized and oppressed because, I mean, our people have been completely brainwashed. And so much to an extent that if you speak anything, you know, in terms of Black power or, you know, the revolution or, you know, wanting to organize within a community, they look at you crazy. And, you know, just personally, I experienced that, you know, with my family, as I'm sure many of my comrades, you know, do as well. And just for her mother to, you know, come into that room knowing everything that her daughter is facing at that moment and just to express how proud she was of Assata, that was just so extremely touching to me. And, you know, it just really made me think to myself that, well, I hope, you know, one day that, you know, my parents can be proud of, you know, my decision to become a revolutionary and fight for the freedom of our people. So that's chapter 1. So let's see. Hashtag read that back. I'm going to go into the comments. I think I saw a couple of people put in, you know, the comments, what were their favorite parts of chapter 1. So let's see here. I think we have... Okay, let's start with Conrad Valencia, who says, hashtag read that back. What stood out to me was the fact that she refused to talk to the pigs, even though they beat her mercilessly, even with life-threatening injuries. Also, the fact that they were withholding proper medical treatment and hoping that she would die. Yes, Sister Valencia. And when the ambulance arrived at the crime scene or whatever, the turnpike, when all of this had popped off, they actually kept her at the crime scene for like a number of hours and just kept checking into the back of the ambulance, hoping that she would just eventually die. But she didn't. But yes, that was the discipline that it takes to be able to, you know, not break under all of the abuse that this, Sister Assata Shakur describes in chapter 1. I mean, it's just, excuse me, it's astounding. They did so many horrible things to her. Hashtag read that back. Let's see who else has. Okay, we have Sister Valencia again, who says she asked for a lawyer and they told her she didn't need one because they just knew they were going to roll all over her. We have Brother Shamit, and I'm sorry, Brother Shamit, if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I hope I'm not. Who says, I like the part where the black security guard gave her the Black Power salute. Yes, I like that part too. Let's see. We have Comrade Daniel Mapp, who says, my favorite part is when she said her mom was proud of her. Yes, hashtag read that back. Yes. And we also have Comrade Gigi, who says, hashtag read that back. My family doesn't support this lifestyle because they're scared of what could happen to me. If I ever were to hear those words from my family, it would mean everything to me. Assata is so powerful and brave. And yeah, I unite with that Comrade Gigi because a lot of times, when me and my mom have our different spats or whatever, I wouldn't call it necessarily spats, but just our debates over, what I do as a revolutionary. That's one of her one of her main concerns as well. One of the number one things that she brings up is my my safety or whatever. And at this point, it's just like when you stay in work for so long and then you just become to internalize yourself that, at this point, my life doesn't even belong to me anymore. It belongs to the people. And just, nurturing that notion within yourself to understand that this is what you have decided to do. I mean, it's just like, I don't want to say like having an epiphany, but it becomes your life, and you then can't separate it, from anything else. We have Comrade Nai, who says, hashtag read that back. When the pigs would change shifts, some would salute like Nazis, yes, and talk about what the world would be like if Hitler had won. Yeah. So before we move on to chapter 2, again, I just want to remind you all that the Dove Revolutionary Book Club, again, serves as a fundraiser for Black Hammer. So again, please donate what you can by going to blackhammer.org, or you can donate through Cash App at BH Book Club, which stands for Black Hammer Book Club. As I said earlier within the show, we have a goal this morning to raise $25. So if I can get in the comments, let me know how much you want to donate. I'll give you a shout out. And I also want to remind you guys again about our giveaway that we're going to do. And you can get an autographed copy of the Autobiography of Assata Shakur that will be signed by myself. I'm sorry it's not gonna be signed by Sister Assata, but I'm pretty cool. So in order to be eligible to get the giveaway, you have to have attended at least 3 of the Revolutionary Book Club live broadcasts. You've had to donate, we take donations, the minimum $5 or whatever you can, and you have had to participate in the discussion here on Facebook, and you'll get a signed copy of the Autobiography of Assata Shakur. Okay, so let's move on to chapter 2. And being like I admitted earlier in the show, I didn't really know too much about Assata Shakur, but when you read chapter 2, you do find out that this sister was raised, by the petty bourgeoisie. She grew up petty bourgeoisie. And what was so interesting to me was not only interesting, but actually kind of funny is her being able to, talk about her childhood and then sum it up for what it was at the same time. Just being able to identify the class differences that she saw, within, her own family and with herself, and how she came, how she came to terms with that. And she spoke about how she would spend the summers down south in Wilmington, North Carolina with her grandparents because she lived in, she was born in New York. Excuse me. I don't know what's going on. My allergies are acting up or something. But she grew up in New York, but she would spend the summers with her grandparents down south in Wilmington. And what was what I liked about chapter 2, even understanding that her grandparents were on the wrong side of the question, just how her grandma and her grandfather just gave her a sense of pride, of being black, just I'll read, for example, how she says, "Who's better than you? Nobody. Who? Nobody. Get that head up. Yes. Yes, who? Yes, grandmommy. I want that head held high, and I don't want you taking no mess from anybody. You understand? Yes, grandmommy. Don't let me hear about anybody walking over my grandbaby. No, grandmommy. I don't want nobody taking advantage of you. You hear? Yes, I hear you. Yes, who? Yes, grandmommy. All of my family tried to instill in me a sense of personal dignity, but my grandmother and my grandfather were really fanatic about it. Over and over they would tell me, you're as good as anyone else. Don't let anybody tell you that they're better than you. My grandparents strictly forbade me to say yes ma'am and yes sir, or to look down at my shoes or make subservient gestures when talking to white people. You look them in the eye when you talk to them, I was told, and speak up like you've got some sense. I was told to speak in a loud, clear voice and to hold my head up high or risk having my grandparents knock it off my shoulders. Right on. And I just want to give a thank you to Conrad Naya, who donated $10 just now. Black Power, Conrad. Thank you for your donation. So that's what? I'm horrible at math, but we only got $15 more to raise this morning, so y'all, I know we can do it. So another portion of this chapter, of chapter 2, which was really good to me, was again how she was able to identify the class question. And I'm going to read this portion as well, as she says, but a lot of times for my grandparents, pride and dignity were hooked up to things like position and money. Petty boo. For them, being just as good as white people meant having what white people had. They would tell me to go to school and study so that I could have a nice house and nice clothes and a nice car. And I quote, white people don't want to see us with nothing, they would tell me. That's why you've got to get your education so that you can be somebody and have something in life. Becoming somebody in life just didn't mean too much to me. I wanted to feel happy, to feel good. My awareness of class differences in the black community came at an early age. Although my grandmother taught me more about being proud and strong than anyone I know, she had a lot of Booker T. Washington, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, talented 10th ideas. She had worked hard and had made a decent living as a piece worker in a factory, but she had other ideas for me. She was determined that I would become part of Wilmington's talented 10th, the privileged class, part of the so-called black bourgeoisie. Yeah. And I just want to say, that as black people, we're not born, wanting to aspire to be the black petty bourgeoisie. And I think a lot of us, well, not I think, I know that black people are introduced to this idea that, you know, they can achieve some type of semblance to the white woman class. And I believe, you know, that notion has been, you know, forced upon us since forever. And Black Power, Comrade Gigi donated $5, so that means we only got $10 to go, but you can donate as much as you want. But you know, we aren't born with these ideas. Like, you know, these ideas are forced upon us. And, you know, that's when it becomes our responsibility, you know, as revolutionaries to, you know, at least in my mind, make some type of attempt to win, family members. And of course, you know, everybody can't be won to the revolution. But to me, in my mind, how I would, you know, always see it is that, you know, you have to, only the host can pin the donation links. I had no idea. Let me put that in real quick. I'm sorry, y'all. Okay, so now going forward, I know that's what I have to do. Okay, let me just put this in here real quick, y'all. But are y'all enjoying the book club so far? I know I'm talking a lot. Let's see. Book club. And but you know what? I think I did know that, but I kind of forgot. All right. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm coming. Okay. Now, can I pin this? Pin comment. Okay, there we go. All right, but yeah, let's see. What was my hashtag read that back portion of chapter 2? Oh, well, real quick, one thing that stood out to me also, that I didn't know was the part when she spoke about her family's last name, which was Freeman on her mother's side. And it's the portion that she speaks about it. She says, the popular name for the beach was Bot Beach, although my grandparents insisted on calling it Freeman's Beach. Throughout my childhood, the name Freeman had no particular significance. It was a name like any other name. It wasn't until I was grown and began to read Black history that I discovered the significance of the name. After slavery, many Black people refused to use the last names of their masters. They called themselves freemen instead. The name was also used by Africans who were freed before slavery was quote-unquote officially abolished. But it was mainly after the abolition of chattel slavery that many Black people changed their names to freemen. After learning this, I saw my ancestors in a new light. I never knew that, you know, about the name Freeman, because I mean, you know, as a slave, you take the last name of your, of your slave master. But that was something, that I didn't know, and I enjoyed reading that. So my hashtag read that back part of chapter 2 was Sister. Oh, we got another donation, y'all, from Sister Catherine. Thank you so much, Sister Catherine, for your donation. The part when she speaks about, you know, us as Black people being brainwashed and us not even knowing about it. And I think she speaks to a portion in the book of when she's in school as a child, and just, you know, the self-hatred that her and the other black children her age at that time, just displayed. And it kind of took me back to, I'm pretty sure it takes us all back to our childhood when we would just, tease each other, and the different insults that we would use as children. And just to understand that even that, is shaped politically within ourselves by white power, this internalized self-hatred. And she says, most of our fights started over petty disputes like stepped on shoes, flying spitballs, and the contested ownership of pens and pencils. But behind our fights, self-hatred was clearly visible. Nappy head, I catch your ass, you gonna be dead. You think you black and ugly now, I'm gonna beat you till you purple. You just another nigga to me. I'ma show you what I'll do with niggas like you. You better shut up, you big blubber lips. We would call each other jungle bunnies and bush boogies. We would talk about each other's ugly big lips and flat noses. We would call each other pickaninnies and nappy-haired so-and-sos. Act your age, not your color, we would tell each other. You gonna thank me when I'm through with you. I'ma beat you so bad, I'ma beat the black off you. Black made insults worse. When you called somebody a bastard, that was bad. But when you called somebody a black bastard, now that was terrible. In fact, when I was growing up, being called black, period, was grounds for fighting. Who you calling black, we would say. We had never heard the words black is beautiful, and the idea had never occurred to most of us. And what also comes to mind when reading this portion of chapter 2, and I believe Comrade Ghazi previously, and even now, just speaks about, the slander of the black working class, and just how, just understanding that we are the most slandered, sector, on this planet. And just how we can, how that has been, how we internalize it, and then we begin to use it as a weapon against each other. So much so that, even when you're speaking with family members and, you might say it as, something comical, but even at that moment, we don't really have a grasp of, what we're participating in when we say, you better not be outside for too long, you're gonna get black. Or just being around your grandparents when they would be like, I ain't going out in that sun, I'm not trying to get black. And just like all of these different things that, has been placed into us by black power. And then, like I said, we in turn weaponize it against each other. And just to hear Sister Assata sum that up, it was a great read. And another portion I want to read real quickly, when she says, we had been completely brainwashed and we didn't even know it. We accepted white value systems and white standards of beauty, and at times we accept the white man's views of ourselves. We had never been exposed to any other point of view or any other standard of beauty. From when I was a tot, I can remember black people saying, niggas ain't shit. You know how lazy niggas are. Give a nigga an inch and he'll take a mile. Everybody knew what niggas like to do after they eat, sleep. Everybody knew that niggas couldn't be on time. That's why there's CPT, colored people's time. Niggas don't take care of nothing. Niggas don't stick together. The list could go on and on. To varying degrees, we accepted these statements as true. And to varying degrees, we each made them true within ourselves because we believed them. So powerful. So powerful. So now it's time for you to tell me what was your favorite part of chapter 2. Let's see if we have any hashtag read that back for chapter 2. Anybody have a portion of chapter 2 that they liked? Let's see. I don't see any at this moment. But yeah, that was pretty much chapter 2 for me, and the portions that, you know, really spoke to me within that chapter. But you know, as I'm beginning to see that, you know, some of our favorite revolutionaries, they grew up, you know, Petty Boo. And again, you know, what really like I said was comical and funny to me was how it was like you have Assata just looking back at her younger self and then just like, you know, completely reading the hell out of her own self. And I think I've been confronted with that because, you know, Facebook has that feature, you know, the memories feature, where you can go back, you know, like years and see stuff that you posted like years ago. And sometimes I look back and then I'm just like, what the fuck was I on? Like, versus then and now, it's just like, Dia, what was really good. So before we move on to chapter 3, again, I just want to give y'all a reminder about tonight's interview at 6 p.m. Black Hammer presents hashtag Protect Our Girls, an interview with Sister Marcy Thrasher and Brother Anthony Valentine. And just so you guys know, Brother Anthony and Sister Marcy, they're engaged. So, excuse me. I'm going to be interviewing this beautiful couple to speak about, you know, the hashtag Protect Our Girls campaign. And this is going to be, you know, like your formal introduction to these two beautiful African parents. And, you know, we're going to be speaking about the case, you know, what they've been, you know, what they've had to experience up until this point. And again, it's also going to serve as a fundraiser because they're raising money. The campaign is raising money to get this new retainer for another lawyer that they have identified. So again, I just want y'all, everybody, to please tune in. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend, and just make sure that you're there. And you know, it's just continuing in the path that Black Hammer has created, you know, well, not necessarily created, but, you know, just holding ourselves accountable to what we tell the people that we're going to do. And, you know, one of those things is being that we will protect our Black children. And this campaign is just another, you know, manifestation of that same promise that we've made as members of Black Hammer. So just make sure that you're able to tune in for that. So I think I got some hashtag read that back. And Comrade Gigi says, my favorite part was when her grandparents would tell her nobody is better than her, to get her head up. I don't know why the comment isn't expanding. Okay, there it goes. To get her head up and don't let nobody walk all over her. Yes, that reminds me very much of my grandmother Peaches. And yes, Comrade Karina, she does talk a lot about segregation. And let's see. Shamit says, there is a saying that goes something like the middle class is educated enough to know what's wrong with the system, but too comfortable to do anything about it. That part. That part. So, moving on to chapter 3, we find Sister Assata. This is when she's moved to the Middlesex workhouse. And she speaks about her, you know, her experience being there. And it's this workhouse where I believe like these women, they do like different various things or whatever. Because I know she speaks about being given like a maid uniform or something like that. But even when she first got there, they confined her to this room that she was not allowed to leave. Like I believe she speaks about how there's first this bar, like you have the regular jail bar, and then there's like this solid steel door with just like a cutout peephole that she can barely even see out of. And so she speaks about that. And she also speaks about just the different relationships that she, that she was able to build with the women within the workhouse. And they call it workhouse, but we understand, it's prison, it's a concentration camp. It's no other, it's no other way around that. And, she's also talks about how they treat her during this process. Because remember, she has been shot. And at this point, she still is a bullet in her chest. And they broke her, what did she say? She broke her, it starts with a C. But I know it has something to do with her, shoulder. And then at this point, they also tell her that she's going to be paralyzed in her right arm. But we come to find out later on that that isn't true. So she speaks about, how her first month there, she writes. There we go. Thank you, Conrad Valencia. And I'm not even sure if I can pronounce that, but it's the clavicle. I'm gonna just leave that right there. But yeah, she just speaks about her first month there and how she was, just writing, how they wouldn't let her read the newspaper. For none of the women, as she speaks to at that point, were able to read like newspapers. And I think like one of the pigs even told her that they don't want her to read because the newspaper is going to be like some type of fire hazard or something else of that nature. But immediately I was able to identify my read that back portion of chapter 3. And I'm going to read that now. And it's the portion of the chapter where she speaks about Evelyn, who's her aunt and also her lawyer. And she speaks about her aunt being able to bring into her a tape recorder because, again, even up to this point with her being locked in the prison, thank you, Comrade Shamit. At this point, nobody even knows that she's locked up. So she makes a determination that she has to let people know, what's going on. And so she records this tape, and it's called To My People. And she released it, and I think it was broadcast on, she doesn't name the radio stations, but she does let us know that it was broadcast on radio stations, and she released it on July 4th, 1973. And I just think that is so powerful. Just understanding the climate that America is in at that moment, and just understanding even now in present time what July 4th is supposed to symbolize, for America or whatever. But, just in a day and time, where the Black Liberation Movement of the 60s had just pretty much been, like wiped out. We saw our revolutionary leaders being murdered, and, just the movement, being assassinated by the U.S. government, by the FBI, CIA, and for her to be in her current predicament, and was still able to release, such a powerful statement. And it's long, but I think it's worth reading, and I want to read it. And then also that she released it on my birthday. I think that was cool too, whatever. But so I'm gonna read it, and it says, Black brothers, Black sisters, I want you to know that I love you, and I hope that somewhere in your hearts you have love for me. And that part was just, that was powerful to me as well because, you know, at this moment, we understand that the FBI, the U.S. government, the media is just slandering the hell out of, you know, Sister Assata's character and, you know, painting her to be this horrible person. And, you know, it's heart-wrenching, to think that at this point she's been isolated. There's no one that she's been able to speak to into the outside world, and just to have the idea that, you know, her people, us as black people, have lost love for her, you know, due to, you know, what the government is doing to assassinate her character. She goes on to say, my name is Assata Shakur, and I'm a revolutionary, a black revolutionary. By that, I mean that I have declared war on all forces that have raped our women, castrated our men, and kept our babies empty-bellied. I have declared war on the rich who prosper on our poverty, the politicians who lie to us with smiling faces, and all the mindless, heartless robots who protect them in their property. I am a black revolutionary, and as such, I am a victim of all that wrath, hatred, and slander that America is capable of. Like all other black revolutionaries, America is trying to lynch me. I am a black revolutionary woman, and because of this, I have been charged with and accused of every alleged crime in which a woman has been believed to have participated. The alleged crimes in which only men were supposedly involved, I have been accused of planning. They have plastered pictures alleged to be me in post offices, airports, hotels, police cars, subways, banks, televisions, and newspapers. They have offered over $50,000 in rewards for my capture, and they have issued orders to shoot on sight and to shoot to kill. I am a black revolutionary, and by definition, that makes me a part of the Black Liberation Army. The pigs have used their newspapers and TVs to paint the Black Liberation Army as vicious, brutal, mad dog criminals. They have called us gangsters and gun moles and have compared us to such characters as John Dillinger and Ma Barker. It should be clear, it must be clear to anyone who can see, think, or hear that we are the victims and not the criminals. It should also be clear to us by now who the real criminals are. Nixon and his crime partners have murdered hundreds of third world brothers and sisters in Vietnam, Cambodia, Mozambique, Angola, and South Africa. As proved by Watergate, the top law enforcement officials in this country are a lying bunch of criminals. The president, 2 attorney generals, the head of the FBI, the head of the CIA, and half the White House staff have been implicated in the Watergate crimes. They call us murderers, but we did not murder over 250 unarmed black women and children or wound thousands of others in the riots they provoked during the 60s. The rulers of this country have always considered their property more important than our lives. They call us murderers, but we were not responsible for the 28 brother inmates and 9 hostages murdered at Attica. They call us murderers, but we did not murder and wound over 30 unarmed black students at Jackson State or Southern State either. They call us murderers, but we did not murder Martin Luther King Jr., Emmett Till, Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, George Jackson, Nat Turner, James Chaney, and countless others. We did not murder by shooting in the back 16-year-old Rita Lloyd, 11-year-old Ricky Bodden, or 10-year-old Clifford Glover. They call us murderers, but we do not control or enforce a system of racism and oppression that systematically murders black and third world people. Although black people supposedly comprise about 15% of the total American population, at least 60% of murder victims are black. For every pig that is killed in the so-called line of duty, there are at least 50 black people murdered by the police. Black life expectancy is much lower than white, and they do their best to kill us before we are even born. were burned alive in fire-trap tenements. Our brothers and sisters OD daily on heroin and methadone. Our babies die from lead poisoning. Millions of black people have died as a result of indecent medical care. This is murder, and they got all the gall to call us murderers. They call us kidnappers, yet Brother Clark Squire was kidnapped on April 2nd, 1969 from our black community and held on $1 million ransom in the New York Panther 21 conspiracy case. He was acquitted on May 13, 1971, along with all the others of the 156 counts of conspiracy by a jury that took less than 2 hours to deliberate. Brother Squire was innocent, yet he was kidnapped from his community and family. Over 2 years of his life was stolen, but they call us kidnappers. We did not kidnap the thousands of brothers and sisters held captive in America's concentration camps. 90% of the prison population in this country are black and third world people who can afford neither bail nor lawyers. They call us thieves and bandits. They say we steal. But it was not we who stole millions of black people from the continent of Africa. We were robbed of our language, of our gods, of our culture, and of our human dignity, of our labor, and of our lives. They call us thieves, yet it is not we who rip off billions of dollars every year through tax evasion, illegal price fixing, embezzlement, consumer fraud, bribes, kickbacks, and swindles. They call us bandits, yet every time most black people pick up our paychecks, we are being robbed. Every time we walk into a store in our neighborhood, we are being held up. And every time we pay our rent, the landlord sticks a gun in our ribs. They call us thieves, but we did not rob and murder millions of Indians by ripping off their homeland, then calling ourselves pioneers. They call us bandits, but it is not we robbing Africa, Asia, and Latin America of their natural resources and freedom while the people who live there are sick and starving. The rulers of this country and their flunkies have committed some of the most brutal, vicious crimes in history. They are the bandits, they are the murderers, and they should be treated as such. These maniacs are not fit to judge me, Clark, or any other black person on trial in America. Black people should and inevitably must determine our destinies. Every revolution in history has been accomplished by actions, although words are necessary. We must create shields that protect us and spears that penetrate our enemies. Black people must learn how to struggle by struggling. We must learn by our mistakes. I want to apologize to you, my black brothers and sisters, for being on the New Jersey Turnpike. I should have known better. The Turnpike is a checkpoint where black people are stopped, searched, harassed, and assaulted. Revolutionaries must never be in too much of a hurry or make careless decisions. He who runs when the sun is sleeping will stumble many times. Every time a black freedom fighter is murdered or captured, the pigs try to create the impression that they have squashed the movement, destroyed our forces, and put down the black revolution. The pigs also try to give the impression that 5 or 10 guerrillas are responsible for every revolutionary action carried out in America. That is nonsense. That is absurd. Black revolutionaries do not drop from the moon. We are, and this part, this part is so powerful. Let's see, where was I? We are created by our conditions, shaped by our oppression. We are being manufactured in groves in the ghetto streets, places like Attica, San Quentin, Bedford Hills, Leavenworth, and Sing Sing. They are turning out thousands of us. Many jobless black veterans and welfare mothers are joining our ranks. Brothers and sisters from all walks of life who are tired of suffering passively and make up the Black Liberation Army. There is and will always be, until every black man, woman, and child is free, a Black Liberation Army. The main function of the Black Liberation Army at this time is to create good examples, to struggle for black freedom, and to prepare for the future. We must defend ourselves and let no one disrespect us. We must gain our liberation by any means necessary. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. In the spirit of Ronald Carter, William Christmas, Mark Clark, Mark Essex, Frank Heavy Fields, Woody Chenga, Alubala Green, Fred Hampton, Little Bobby Hutton, George Jackson, Jonathan Jackson, James McLean, Harold Russell, Zayd Malik Shakur, Anthony Camus, Alubala White. We must fight on. That tape was, just imagine like being in that time and then hearing that broadcast from sisters, Assata. I just, I would imagine that it just had to be so re-energizing for, revolutionary brothers and sisters, back then at that time. And just the fact that, as I said earlier, like white power, white imperialism, capitalism is so stupid. They're so stupid. And as she sums up, here in this portion, that they are creating the conditions for revolutionaries to rise up. And it's just, yeah. Let's see. So that was my hashtag read that back portion of chapter 3. Let's see if we have any in the comments. Let's see. Okay, so Sister Valencia says, hashtag read that back. The tape was my favorite part of chapter 3. Everything she said in the tape is still relevant today. Yes. Conrad Knight says, you and Assata share a birthday month. Ah! Excuse me. Brother Schmidt says, I have killed, but I'm not a killer. A good line from a book I'm reading now. Yes. We have Histofer, who says, I watched the footage on YouTube with Farrakhan in the orange puppet mentions. Let's see. I don't know why is this thing doing that. This book is a great read. It holds heavy weight. I've shared it with family. Thanks for the Revolutionary Book Club invite. Right on, brother. I'm so glad you're enjoying it. All right. So, the last portion of chapter 3 that stood out to me, well, no, I have two more. Two more is when Sister Assata speaks about the suicides, these so-called suicides. Well, no, she speaks about the murders of black prisoners in these concentration camps. And, just like I said, like, white power never changes its, its tactics. And just like how we saw with Sister Sandra Bland, who it was reported that committed suicide in prison, when we know without a shadow of a doubt that she was murdered. She speaks about, how these, these black prisoners are found murdered in their cells. And she says, in prison, it is not at all uncommon to find a prisoner hanged or burned to death in his cell. No matter how suspicious the circumstances, these deaths are always ruled suicides. There are usually black inmates considered to be a threat to the orderly running of the prison. They are usually among the most politically aware and socially conscious inmates in the prison. And that was definitely our sister, Sandra Bland. So, and lastly, she speaks about this sister that she met by the name of Eva, and she says that, they got along famously, and Eva was a part of this riot that started with Sister Assata when, they had these. At this point, they've let her leave out of her cell just to go short distances or whatever. But every time they would come to Sister Assata's jail cell, she'll just walk out into the open, because again, she's been isolated for so long. And I mean, at this point, the pigs will try to get her to come back in. But at one point, when she's being served her lunch, she just takes her tray and goes she sits amongst the other women within the prison. And so the guards tried to contain her, but she says once they reached for her, like chairs, trays, cups, everything just stopped flying everywhere. And they speak about she speaks about the relationship that she's built with Sister Eva, but after the riot is over, they move Eva to this mental institution because they say that she has some type of mental disability, but the only mental disability that I can identify is colonialism. So, but Sister Assata writes this poem that I just think is so badass, and I just want to read that. She says, and just hold on, I want to break down the description of how she, how she describes Sister Eva. And she says that Sister Eva is a big sister. She says, I think 300 pounds, and she has her head shaved like faded, like shaved down. And she just comments on how beautiful this sister is and how she clearly sees that Eva has no type of notion, no type of desire to try to hold herself to these white standards of beauty. And I think the poem that she writes is just so touching. And she says, rhinoceros woman, who nobody wants and everybody's used. They say you're crazy, 'cause you're not crazy enough to kneel when told to kneel. Hey, big woman, with scars on the head and scars on the heart that never seem to heal. I saw your light and it was shining. You gave them love, they gave you shit. You gave them you, they gave you Hollywood. They purr at you, 'cause you know how to war and back it up with realness. Rhinoceros woman, big mama in a little world. You closed your eyes and neon spun inside your head 'cause it was dark outside. You read your Bible, but God never came. Your daddy would have loved you, but what would the neighbors say? They hate your mama 'cause you exposed their madness and their cruelty. They can see in your eyes 1,000 nightmares that they have made come true. Black woman, bad woman, wear your bigness on your chest like a badge 'cause you done earned it. Strong woman, Amazon, wear your scars like jewelry 'cause they were bought with blood. They called you mad and almost had you believing that shit. They called you ugly and you hid yourself behind yourself and wallowed in their shame. Rhinoceros woman, the world is blind and the sleight of mind and cannot see how beautiful you are. I saw your light and it was shining. Wonderful, 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 wonderful. Yeah, so that pretty much sums up chapter 3 for me. And she also speaks about going to trial and how she's actually moved to so she starts off in the Middlesex Women's Workhouse, aka prison, and then she speaks about how she's moved to the male jail there. So you have the workhouse, and then you have the Middlesex Workhouse, and then you have the Middlesex jail. And she was moved to the basement. She talks about being moved to the basement, and they say that they put her there only because where her court hearing is supposed to take place, just the convenience of it being in the same place. But she says, in September, I was moved from the workhouse and entombed in the basement of the Middlesex County Jail, allegedly because of the jail's proximity to the Middlesex County Courthouse, where the New Jersey trial was scheduled to begin on October 1st. I was the first and last woman ever imprisoned there. It has always been, a male jail. So, she talks about just the different taxes that they use because, as she says, it's leading up to the trial. So they would leave the lights on in her cell and would not turn them off. And she just speaks about how blinding the light was and here it is, she's supposed to be preparing to go to trial, but how can anybody, have any type of peace of mind when you have these pigs that are doing all of this horrible stuff to keep her awake and just jumble her mind? And she speaks about how, the jury, how they have to go through different juries because, of course, the jury is full of white nationalists, and she said, I think she says they had about like maybe 3 or 4 black people on the jury, but again, none of these brothers and sisters were able to participate because of them trying to survive, meaning that they had to work or take care of their children and just didn't have time to participate in a jury trial because they knew that it was going to be drawn out. And she even speaks about how I think she said it's a juror who's only 20 years old, and at this point they're questioning the people who are going to participate on the jury, just to see if they are qualified to be on the jury. And it's this 20 year old that she speaks about that basically comes out and says that everybody on the jury is saying that she is guilty, that she needs to be prosecuted, and all of this other kind of stuff like that. So the judge is then forced to, go a different route or whatever. And so they go to Morris County, which is a county full of white nationalists. And I think one of her lawyers tells her that there's only like maybe 5% black people in this county where they're pulling the jury from. And she just speaks about, how she was being, so frantic about what was happening, during the proceedings, because here it is, you have this African sister, as many of us who don't know much about the courts, anything about, much about the laws and anything else of that nation. I can understand where her, her franticness, if that's a word, was coming about. But yeah, and she also, and I meant to mention this earlier, but she also speaks about being reunited with brother Sundiata, and how that was really relaxing for her, and just giving her the idea, well, not the idea, but just the reassurance that she wasn't alone. So yeah, so that concludes chapter 3. And let me see. I'm looking at my notes. Y'all know I gotta take notes. But yeah, that's chapter 3 for me. And if we have anybody else who has any parts of chapter 3 that they enjoyed, I'm just shifting through the comments right now. And if not, that is going to conclude today's Revolutionary Book Club. And I just want to thank everybody who tuned in, and just to let you guys know that we will be back on next Sunday, same time, same place. And we went to, it's 12:30 now. So I think what we'll do is go from 11 to 12:30. I think that would be a good enough time to foster a good enough conversation. But I just really want to thank everybody for tuning in this morning, and I hope you guys are enjoying the book club so far. I know I am. And I just hope you guys return next week to read with me. As you can see, this book is going to be a page turner, and I'm very excited to get through the book. And again, I just want to remind everybody to please, if you don't have the PDF yet, please request that from comrades Robert and Gigi, who are working in the comment section. They can send you over the links for the free PDF, so you can catch up to where we're at now. So next week we're going to do chapters 4, 5, and 6. So as I laid out how we're going to do it, y'all, we have that hashtag read that back. So please, as you're reading each chapter, highlight the portions of the chapter that you like or, you know, speak to you and we can discuss it. You know, we want to have, be able to foster a discussion where we're just going back and forth, because I don't really like just reading to y'all. I want y'all to participate, you know, in the conversation as well too. So let's see. Again, just really want to remind y'all about the interview we have today with Sister Marcy and her fiance, Brother Anthony. And again, that's going to be at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to be going live right here from the Black Hammer Facebook page. And I also want to thank everybody who was able to donate today. And again, please, you can go to blackhammer.org and make a contribution. You can go to Cash App, and it's BH Book Club, which is Black Hammer Book Club. You can donate through there. And I want to say that we want to purchase the equipment, the lighting tripod within maybe the next 3 weeks. And so we're going to work to raise those resources so when you come, I can look prettier than when I look right now. And then we could just have, you know, we could just have a good ass time, you know, doing political education and, you know, just really chopping it up. And, you know, yeah. So I want y'all to meet me back here next week, Sunday. And if you haven't become a member of Black Hammer, become a member of Black Hammer. Next time, I'll provide next time the call-in number for our weekly meetings that we have every Tuesday. So you can come and participate in that as well, just so you can get an introduction of Black Hammer and, you know, what we do as an organization, because we need you, my brother. We need you, my sister. Okay. So I want y'all to enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Thank you so much, Comrade Naya. I put my notes and stuff together, but I just can't help but feel like I be doing my I feel like I be rambling. I really do feel like I be rambling, but as long as it's coherent and y'all can understand what I'm saying, I think we're gonna be good, okay? Comrade Christopher says, I will be back. I was in the wrong time zone this week. Okay. Well, we look forward to having you back, brother. So I'll see y'all at 6 o'clock for the interview. So make sure y'all tune into that. Okay? Black Power.